Welcome back. I hope you're having a very risk-acceptable day. Wait, what? Well, that's exactly the topic we're going to get into today, is the matter of what risks are acceptable, and when they are not, what would we do with them? So let's just summarize quickly where we are at this point. Among other things, so far, we have identified all of our risks by considering various triples. Remember, the definition of a risk is an asset, a threat, and a vulnerability. Risk exists when and only when all three of those are present. Secondarily, using factors like the likelihood of a threat exploiting a vulnerability and the impact were it to happen, we also rated our risk and we produced a risk register. And then in the last episode, we considered the concept of establishing our risk appetite and using a risk rating scale from 0 to 25 based on a likelihood scale of 0 to 5 and an impact scale of 0 to 5. We end up multiplying those two factors together and hence the scale from 0 to 25. Risk appetite, we spoke about maybe a 12, maybe a 15. It all depends on your organization and where you are in your journey. Now that we've gotten to that point, by establishing our risk appetite, we have effectively established those risks that we are going to accept. By definition, we will accept all the risks with a rating below that risk appetite. If the risk appetite was 15, anything below a 15, we're typically going to accept. If it's 15 or above, we're going to make a decision as to what to do with those risks. In fact, that's the subject matter today. Those three choices are: we may avoid the risk, we may mitigate the risk, and/or we may transfer the risk. So let's get started. Before we dive in, as a quick reminder of where we are in our overall journey, today's episode is number 18. I plan to record a total of 30 episodes, but as you've heard me say before, I may delete, add, change, or tweak a little bit along the way. Last but not least, all of these episodes will be posted on this YouTube channel. If you've not already done so, please go ahead and subscribe so that you can be notified of any new updates that we provide or the posting of new episodes. Secondarily, if you know anyone who may benefit from the material that we're presenting, feel free to share the YouTube channel and link with them. And then finally, feel free to post any feedback you may have on this YouTube channel. The image that I'm showing here is from NIST Special Publication 800-39 and provides great context as to where we are in an overall process of enterprise cyber risk management. Our discussions about defining likelihood and impact scales, how we will rate risk, setting risk appetite, etc., are part of the center circle framing your approach to cyber risk management. Our discussions about actually identifying and rating our unique risk are part of the assessment circle shown at the top. Our discussions about technical testing, while they've been somewhat brief and not very deep, are part of monitoring. As you may recall, we talked about technical testing as a useful tool to test the efficacy and the effectiveness of the controls we've implemented. Now we are responding to risk. This is also known as managing risk, also known as treating our risk, which means making decisions about those risks we don't accept in order to lower their risk rating below our risk appetite, or said another way, within a zone of acceptable risk for us. Here's a spoiler alert. HIPAA not only requires that you conduct a comprehensive enterprise-wide risk analysis, as we've seen at 45 Code of Federal Regulations, Part 164, 308, A12A, immediately following it at A12B is an explicit requirement to undertake risk management. In plain English, you must do something about the risk that you find. The snippet that you see is from an OCR data request as part of an investigation. Let's do a quick read. Please provide evidence of ABC Hospital's security measures that are in place to reduce the risk to EPHI identified in the risk analysis. parentheses, that is, risk management plan and accompanying evidence, close parentheses. Please be sure to submit a copy of a risk management plan associated with each risk analysis requested. These risk management plans should describe the security measures implemented by ABC Hospital to sufficiently reduce the risks and vulnerabilities identified in the risk analyses to a reasonable and appropriate level to comply with the citation 164-308-A12B. Please ensure the risk management plan states the dates of implementation and or estimated dates of completion for each security measure, etc., etc. I have seen these specific requests dozens of times. Make no mistake about it. Not only will the Office for Civil Rights ask for your risk analysis, they will ask you what you're doing about the risk. In fact, I'll bet you dinner, if you have what I'll call an EPHI event involving the creation, receipt, transmission, or maintenance of electronic protected health information that results in a breach or an otherwise triggered OCR investigation, I guarantee OCR will ask for your risk analysis. In fact, not only your most recent one, but typically for the last 3 years, as well as the associated risk management plans. You can pretty much take that to the bank. Let's return to our simple risk register. Remember, the bottom line is this. Risk response, or you may call it risk treatment or risk management, fundamentally is all about risk reduction. Consider the scenario in this sample risk register. If we set our risk appetite at 15, we have 4 risks that we will not accept. 2 of them involve a laptop. One has a risk rating of 25. One has a risk rating of 15. Take a look at those. In one scenario, we have a laptop as an asset. The threat is a burglar. The vulnerability is no encryption. We've rated it with the highest likelihood of 5, the highest impact of 5, severe, with an overall risk rating of 25. Down below, we have a laptop. We have a careless user. He drops the laptop. The scenario is there's no data backup that's being performed. We rate the likelihood of the 3, the impact out of 5 for an overall risk rating of 15. What might we do about these risks that are above our risk rating? Well, we might implement some technical controls. Encryption would be an obvious one. Perhaps we implement a mobile device management solution that may allow us to track these lost mobile devices. We might implement a stronger training program. We might implement online data backup and recovery. From a risk transfer point of view, knowing that we have as many laptops in the field as we do, we may want to talk to our insurance broker about increasing our cyber limits on things like lost laptops. In the second case, we have 2 risks above our risk appetite that involve a server. In one case, we have the potential of a hacker breaking into the server because of weak passwords. In another case, a hacker breaking into the server because we don't do a very good job of patching it on a regular basis. They have respective risk ratings of 20 and 16. What might we do in these cases? Well, we might change or implement a strong password policy. We might patch the operating system on a regular basis. Those would be examples of 2 additional controls we put in place with the expectation and plan, assuming we do the right safeguards, to lower those risk ratings to within our acceptable zone, that is below 15. That's the name of the game. For your reference, here are some formal definitions from NIST Special Publication 800-39. I'm not going to read these. For a complete tutorial on the step-by-step approach to OCR-Quality risk management based on NIST Special Publication 800-39, I would encourage you to view the recently recorded live web event completed by one of my colleagues very recently. You can click the link at the bottom of this page, or you'll also find the link in the resources and references section in the last slide in this particular deck. And then finally, to bring it together in one additional way, think about this image. You will accept risk, probably the preponderance of that. That's one of the choices. By the way, looking at the branch in the risk decision box, if we have no risk, we do not go through a process of thinking about accept, avoid, mitigate, or transfer. So the answer is no, you stop there. But again, assuming we have risk, we will accept the preponderance of them. We will transfer some risk. We talked about cyber liability insurance a moment ago. Outsourcing is a classic technique of risk transferring. If an organization performs services on an expert basis at which we're really rookies, we may consider transferring that work to someone else by way of outsourcing. We will avoid some risk. We might stop using laptops. Not sure how practical that is in this day and age, but it's certainly a choice. We may shut down a line of business. I remember decades ago working in GE. It was not a cyber risk management issue, it was a business risk management issue when GE decided to get out of the nuclear energy business. Back to our world, it might be that we do not allow bring your own device into our particular environment. And then finally, we may mitigate some risk. And we've spoken about things like implementing various safeguards and controls like encryption, policies and procedures, training, building a business resumption plan, etc., etc. Here's a key point. Don't just start implementing stuff, and don't use someone else's one-size-fits-all controls checklist. It's critical that you base your actions on your unique risks that are determined by your completing a comprehensive enterprise risk analysis for your particular organization. So what we covered in this episode was the overall concept of OCR-Quality risk management. And as you recall, and I've said it multiple times, once we understand our unique risks and exposures, once we have rated them, once we have come to a conclusion on our risk appetite for this particular cycle, this particular point in time as we go through our process, then we understand what risks are not within our acceptable zone. At that point, we make decisions to avoid the others, mitigate the others, and or transfer the others. As always, I'm ending this episode with actions and references and resources. I would encourage you, while the material is still fresh in your mind, to consider taking some of the actions and reviewing some of the materials that have been provided, especially the web event that I spoke about a moment ago on conducting an OCR-Quality risk management plan. In the next episode, I'm going to be switching gears a bit. Although what we've talked about up to this point is sort of technical sounding, it's not really. Risk management is risk management. Putting that aside for a moment, we're going to pivot back over to a really important point, and that is that this is not an IT problem. Enterprise cyber risk management is about three things that we will cover in the next episode. Number one, it's about saving your patients. Number two, it's about preserving your reputation. And last but not least, number three, it's about protecting your balance sheet. So until then, be well, be secure. If you've not already done so, I would encourage you to subscribe to the YouTube channel on which all of these episodes are posted. And I'll see you in the next episode.